Well, I hope you got something on your mind.
Man,
Happy Halloween, everybody. Almost.
Yeah, happy. I mean, we're a ways away from Halloween, but we're close, right? We're what? I don't know,
it comes quick,
two and a half weeks. Something. My least favorite holiday. Yeah, it's October 16th, year 2025. Welcome, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is episode 884.
Oh, that's right. It's like, see, that's just it, man. I can think I know you, and I'm like, I was about ready to say your second favorite holiday's coming, but it's your least favorite.
It is completely my least favorite holiday.
I think it's,
it's right behind Christmas.
I like it from afar,
You like it from afar?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't like to participate in it anymore.
Well, yeah,
sort of like I like
when was the last time you participated in Halloween?
It's been a minute, but it's kind of like I like the idea of going to a football game or going to a concert or going to a club, but I don't even want to go. I'm like, I'm glad people do it sometimes, but I can't. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'm not into that. I don't know. Football game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's just a marketed reason, and I say this every year, for people to go buy a bunch of candy and then swap it. It's going to go from our house to your house in an assorted. Here it is. I know we're going to talk about triathlon. It's a net negative. You go to the store, you pick up candy that you like. Like, if I'm going to the store, I'm picking up bags of Reese's peanut butter cups, maybe some Reese's Pieces, because those are become like a delicacy. You don't see those much anymore. And then probably some Butterfingers, and I do like a classic like Hershey bar. And then for the softer individuals, you might throw in like a York peppermint patty. Then that might be like the extent. I don't do the other stuff like because you also can't you can't do like Fifth Avenue, because that's like handing out caviar at Halloween. So you go to the store and you get all these things that you like your favorite candies, and then you put them on your porch, and then you send your kid out, and your kid comes back with maybe 10% of what you would love. Reese's, and you got all these weird ass candies that no one really even likes. You got fucking Twizzlers in there, you got licorice, you've got Gobbers, all these weird Sour Patch, like all these completely overrated candies. So you get all the stuff you want, you give it out to random kids, and then your own kid that's going to bring the candy back to your house comes back with more things that you don't like than things that you like. It's a complete racket. And then you have to fight the fight for the next month of, hey, can I have some of my Halloween candy? Hey, can I have some of my Halloween candy? Hey, can I have some Halloween candy? And yeah, you take all the crap, you give it away, or you throw it away, whatever you do. I'm like, how wasteful is that? I mean, how much Halloween candy actually gets consumed? People throw it out because they'll like binge on it for like 3 or 4 days. Then they're like, well, if it's not in the house, I can't have it. And so then you're just tossing it away. Think about the amount of money that is completely wasted on Halloween. I'm just saying, like, I that's why. I mean, it might be moving above Christmas as my least favorite holiday. But yeah, listen. It's a lot going on. The kid thing is a lot. Hayden was trying to get me to dress up with him this year, which is not happening. And he's going to be, I mean, I know you haven't seen any of these movies, but he's going to be Vector from Despicable Me. Great character. So actually some of my favorite movies, like kid movies, but he was like, Dad, you could just be Gru. He was like, he's got a shaved head. I'm like, I don't have a shaved head anymore, but he was like, all you got to do is wear like a black sweater and a black scarf. And I'm like, well, first off, you lost me at sweater and you lost me at scarf. I could wear a black sweatshirt, and I might tolerate a black and white or black and gray like scarf just for that. But he was like, yeah, but here's the Halloween costume. And the guy's got his giant nose, like huge nose, huge. And it looks like, for the costume that I'd have to wear, black sweater, black and gray scarf, and then you basically attach a penis to your nose, and that's the costume. That's pretty much it. And that's when I told him that I love you, kid. I appreciate you wanting me to participate with you. I'll be riding the golf cart with the Hughes while you guys go around and you have fun being a vector. I'm out.
How much is it going to cost for me to get you in that outfit? I mean, come on.
I don't know that there's a price on it. Okay. In order to get me in that costume, between the whole week leading up to Halloween. So Halloween's on a Friday, I think, or a Thursday, something like that. That week, starting on Monday, you would have to put out a 45 to 60 second triathlon related reel on your Facebook and Instagram account talking about triathlon training that Monday through Thursday.
How many days is that? Just 4 days?
I think it's 4. Yeah, I think it's 4. You
One
do that,
reel?
and I'll do it.
One reel.
One reel per day.
Yeah. One reel per day.
One reel per day for 45. I mean, we're talking 45 seconds. I don't even know how long reels are. I remember doing it in my life. You need to soak on that a little bit.
I got to come up with my sales funnel.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, you could definitely hit, masters athletes in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I could get them. Yeah,
I think
have what it takes to
marinate on
train?
that. And
do you have what it takes to train with a 60-year-old? Are you gonna wimp out on me? All right.
Yeah.
I'll put
So
that
just
on.
marinate on it. I really hope you don't agree to this because this is definitely not something that I want to do. But I also can't see you doing a reel every day for 45. And it's got to go Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, God. All right.
Just
triathlon related?
Triathlon related.
Related. That's right. That's the
so
key
the
term.
podcast, right? We've been talking about freaking Halloween and reels and Gru costumes for the last 6 or 7 minutes. But here we are. We're post Kona. The talk is down. All right. We're coming back to reality. The weather is turning fantastic. Running is, I think, the most on everybody's mind. I would love to get your feedback on this as we kind of roll through into our topics for today. But I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about, there was some research done based on post-athlete comments after sessions. And what was kind of highlighted as the best feeling ones, and that at the very top, right? You had indoor sessions, you had outdoor sessions, you had a run, bike, swim, strength, and a variety, right? Swimming 50 meters, swimming, 25 yards, biking inside, biking, outside, on different terrain. Running outside was the number one most positively correlated comments after each section, well beyond anything else.
Wow.
And which, I think neither one of us would be completely shocked at that, right? I think the only thing that I can say, at least for me, that would correspond very closely to that is if I'm in a groove, and that's because I'm a swimmer. Swimming is also that category for me because it is that unplug from the world thing.
Yeah,
where
I
you
get
can,
that,
it's
can't be in the
this
top
from when
20.
you walk out your back door, right? And you go up on or swim, and it's just can you think of anything better? You leave your phone on the on your deck and you go swim, and it's no one can touch you, no one can talk to you, you're not bothered, you're detached, you don't have these next level distractions, right? Of emails and text messages and Training Peaks comments and people that need you or want you, or even just the temptation, right, to become distracted and move away from the thought pattern that you currently have. And running is the same way. Running for me, if I go on a long, to me, my favorite part of the week for a run is to get up early and go on a long run on the weekend. It's the weekend, but I think you're, at least for me, I'm more detached from work, even though, you know how it is, 50 weeks out of the year, we've got somebody racing on a Saturday or Sunday, you're still going to get a text message, but you can turn those, notifications off. If you get up early enough, you don't have to rush back right to the daily grind that is a Monday through Friday, schedule, and for me, it's I got to get back. I got, Hayden's got school. I got this schedule. So on the weekends, I think you're even more free to go out and enjoy these things and not feel rushed and just really soak it in and enjoy it. I just thought it was really, really interesting, especially because we always talk about this time of year is the best time of year for running, right? You're coming off, your season, you've got a lot of, probably a lot of fitness going from triathlon training, and you're like, I want to run. The running is we've always said that, and it's just a fact. Running is the easiest when it comes to, return on investment from time. Even if you're training indoors, right? You got, for most people, they spend, 75 minutes hooking up their smart trainer and their bike and their 7 iPads and their big screen and their 6 bottles and their fan and everything. And then it crashes. Like running, you just put your shoes on and you go. It's just like swimming. You don't have to drive, right? Swimming is also like tech free for the most part for a lot of people, but it's the drive there. So running, it's easy to do. It takes the least amount of time. You can get the biggest, return on your investment, and the weather's great. And so I think it's just, but the positive comment thing, they went through like over 100,000 comments over a wide range of athletes, from beginners, intermediate, experienced, and across all the disciplines. And always like the highest like mood rating was always running outside. And so I think it'd be a good topic just on why I think most people gravitate to that. And then also why that is something that we should always kind of like go back to, because it's probably not running for everyone, but I think when that one and you can kind of use it as, and this, like, you'd probably pick something different every week. Like if you wanted to go clear your head, it might be hopping on the e-bike or going out for an open water swim or going for like a trail run. But I think like knowing that you have those opportunities to kind of like recharge yourself and have these positive feelings and comments about what you're training helps layer in more things you can do from a sustainability standpoint, especially in the time of year where we should be at least, right, unless you got a race in like January, detaching from a very, very rigid schedule with specific training and very detailed, layout, to going more by feel, going more with the flow, picking what feels right that day, and then really kind of like getting our energy back and kind of like refilling our cup, if you will, from maybe being drained a little bit from the year, not just from a fatigue standpoint, like of what we do with heavier training, but also if you're a coached athlete or even an athlete like working off, trying to like make your own plan and go through all those headaches. It's just having to be told what to do all the time. Because I think there is a lot of stress in that. And I think, like, I'm going to shut up in a second, I swear. But I always kind of go back to like the first, like when Caden first started school. I think a lot of parents can relate to this, is when Caden first started going to school, he'd go to kindergarten, he'd go to class, and he would come home and be a complete dick. He would come home and just like, I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want you to like, tell me to go wash my hands. I don't want you to tell me to do, whatever. I just need to be like free for a bit, because I've been having to be like on my P's and Q's. I've been told what to do all day long. I've had to be my best behavior for all these people, and I can't do it any longer. He's a kid. And then my mom was always like, when she explained it in like, hey, like he's been basically had to be like on perfect behavior for 7 hours straight and sitting still and being told what to do. When you come home, you can't just be like, okay, now we have this. It's like you need the kids and adults, right, need freedom. And I use that analogy to say this is like, I think that like school year is very similar, or the school day is very similar to athletes' racing season, is they are told what to do every single day, whether they do it or not, that's on them. But they're told what to do all the time. And they have this pressure and this end goal. But at some point, they're going to start to rebel, or they're going to need a period of time of more autonomy, more ownership, more flexibility to have free play. And I think this is that time for that. And so I think nurturing that and figuring out what that means to them or ourselves is a really timely topic for us today.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about freedom, that really scratches my itch. I think about, I was wondering where you're going with that school thing, but I really like that analogy, because I don't personally think a lot of kids are meant to be sitting in desks for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Like, geez, like, no wonder they, it's like sit there and they just, all they want to do is play. So honestly, yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but I think my whole thing is to try and figure out a nice kind of combination of both, like that's always going on, instead of like hardcore to the one side and then come back to the left and just, be kind of free for all over the place, but just sort of have a interesting dynamic between the two that sort of keeps you a little bit disciplined, but also gives you freedom. And, of course, that's Jocko Willink's thing, is discipline equals freedom. So it's an interesting, I guess, soup to explore, because I know it's hard for me because I like to have that freedom. I mean, that's one of the things I've learned about myself, is that I don't know. I don't know if I operate better necessarily. I think I need that discipline, but it's sort of like chosen discipline. And I've talked about Ironman before. That's what does it to me. It's my compass. I don't necessarily always want to do, I don't get the same rush from signing up for Ironman anymore. I'm sort of like, damn it, if I do this, I got to do it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's like before it was sort of like,
right? You know what it's like to touch the hot stove. You're like, I don't want to do that again.
Consumed every, waking minute of my life. And like, I was just so jacked for the first year or two with it. And now it's sort of like, okay, if you do this, you're committing to a lot of crap. But then I look in the mirror and go, you deserve a lot of crap, or you need to it's like, you not deserve maybe, but yeah, it's sort of like, what you're getting into. And it is, right. It's sort of like, I have to force myself to be disciplined, in weird ways like that. I mean, cause there's no, I'm not going to go in and fail. That's just like, to me, that's I don't know, like the can't do. So it's like, figure out a way, and that's what I'm doing. I'm, always, warming up on the recumbent bike and then getting on the, it's like I'm doing all these crazy things. But for me, it's sort of a compromise. I'm not going to always just get on a trainer for 4 hours or something like that. I'm going to figure out, maybe I'm going to ride the hydro bike, or I'm going to do the recumbent a little bit, or, do different things to kind of mix and match along the way. But it's sort of discipline. I was thinking about, like, as you're talking, when do you feel invincible? It's sort of like you don't before the run, but maybe after the run. It's sort of that feeling, right? And to me, it's always like that mental sort of clarity or dopamine that gets in your head or whatever like that. But the hardest things to do are to start that process, right? Like this morning I was kind of a little lethargic. I'm like, you need to do some push-ups, dude. And I'm like, I don't want to do push-ups. It's sort of like, but you do it. And then, but one of the things that I, now at this time of year, because the water's getting down and probably in the 50s now, and, just running out in the lake and diving in there and just hanging out for a couple minutes, that shit just puts me in the invincible mood. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to do treadmill today. Or I'm going to go running, or I'm going to get on, it's like these ignition switches that it's just like, I don't know, man, you go through these that school year analogy thing is so good to me, because I feel like we go through that and we want to be on fire, but it's like sometimes we just can't be. So you need both, I think, but that perfect combination, I don't know. It's like if you do something too much, then you're going to rebel against it, like you said, like Hayden was. It's sort of like this, I don't know, is there a fine mix of the two? It's always like looking for that perfect recipe.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, is like, I think one of the, and listen, I think, traditional coaching, I mean, you have very few athletes where they are always on, like, I don't want to say robot mode, right? But you put it in and it's getting done. Mm-hmm. Like nothing ever phases them. And a lot of times these are people who like have very limited outside stress, like maybe aren't in a relationship, maybe are, but it's like, no kids, or if they have kids, like they're out of the house. There's very few athletes that I work with or have ever worked with that are just like robotic. And to some extent, that's great. But also to some extent, you're like, I know there have been plenty of times you're probably not just telling me the truth, is that you shouldn't have trained, right? Because a lot of times I'll think, oh, it's, not skipping is a great thing, but everything changes all the time. And a lot of times we're just in denial. Like we're always a few weeks or a month, or for some people years behind. And I think that's like, as a coach, I think it does it all. To me, it's always interesting. So like this time of year, and I posted like a small little joke about it in our closed Facebook group, but this time of year, like with athletes who don't have like a really close, or huge race, like I do try to embrace like the choice, not like no choice, but like for example, like for bike rides, during the week, I'll give them 3 interval choices, and one run during the week, I'll give them interval choices, and then on the weekends, I give them like a range of duration. I'm like, I don't care what you do on the run today, just keep it under this zone and doing whatever train you want to. But like as a coach, I mean, honestly, like I think about this a lot, and because the most important part of, and I mean, we talked about this a lot actually before we went live today, is which if anyone ever like came into our pre-show meeting for the time we started this, and like a decade later released like the pre-show tapes as like a thing, the response to that I think would be tremendous. But anyway,
Do you think we should sell that?
you
sell
seriously
access?
could. I mean, like the 10 to like 20 minutes where we chat like not that this podcast is filtered anyway, but like completely unobliterated filtered, I think would sell. But anyway, so like the biggest thing, right, is athlete buy-in and athlete conviction, right? And a lot of times that just comes from, athlete buy-in being, you put in something and I believe this is what's right for me today, or I believe that we're on the right track and I believe this is what I need to do. But at the same time, like a lot of times, and I think you're like this, and I think I'm like this also to a degree, because I'll get on the bike sometimes and be like, I don't even know how long I'm going to ride it or what I'm going to do. I'm just going to end up doing something, and I just kind of feel it out. Like I like having like a little bit of flexibility in the ownership of it, but I do like guidance. And I think a lot of athletes like that too. So like you can have buy-in on the process, but you can also think, listen, I know that big gear is probably exactly what I need to do right now, or high RPM or VO2 intervals or threshold intervals, but I just fucking hate them. And so that the response to the session already, and like if you're going to read the athlete comments, is going to be negative. Did it, I didn't like it, I hate these, but it's done. And so the question to me always as a coach is like, let's say I had you do 2 times 10 minute at threshold and you just hate threshold or you hate big gear. Can I have given you like, two, instead of 2 10s at threshold, can I given you like 2 15s, maybe not big gear, but like just a lower gear and at tempo? And you like that. It's getting pretty close to the same stimulus and the same amount of accumulated stress. Well, the positive response after, or the response after that would have been significantly more positive, right? It's like if I'm putting in a run session for you today and I was like, Mike, you're not allowed to run outside today. You have to go run this 50 minutes on the treadmill. Okay. You'd be like, middle finger, dude, no way.
No, I don't think I would.
Right.
But
yeah, so it's like, so I think giving people that choice. So like right now, like here's an example, like on like a Wednesday, I have 3 interval choices, warm up easy for 10 or 15. You can either do 15 minutes of straight tempo, you can do 2 times 6 times 45 minutes hill repeats, or you can do 3 times 5 minute at threshold. Like 3 completely different zones, 3 completely different layouts, from 45-second repeats to 5-minute threshold to long tempo, all pretty much going to be close to like the same stimulus. And it reads also to like giving them ownership of what I'm feeling for today and what excites me or what challenges me. Because like I was reading, it's really also like a good psychological experiment, because some athletes are like, I really like big gear, so I pick bigger. I really like tempo, so I pick tempo. Some are also like, I really know I need to work on this, so I chose this, which says a lot. I think a lot about kind of like where they are today. And so I think like, but the question for me is always, and we talked about this like before we even started a podcast, was like the mepsology, right? Like the mental and emotional and, physical, for some people spiritual, like, calculation each day that guides them to like the correct session based on just what they're feeling, right? And things are weighted in certain categories. And I think when it comes to like longevity and training and offering these, like, do I think this is how it should be, like, year after, week after week after week, year round? No. Do I think it's great this time of year? Yes. But do I also think it has a place in some of the important parts of the season? I think I do. Because again, athlete buy-in and excitement and feeling like you are a part of the, and again, not athletes are like this. Some athletes, again, are just very, I just tell me what to do. I'm going to do it exactly the way you tell me to do it. I don't want to think about it. But a lot of athletes have this ownership. Like I could tell them, right? And I think it's probably the same for you, right? Is I could tell you specifically, Mike, if you're doing Ironman Wisconsin this year, from January 1st to this day, if you do this plan exactly the way that I tell you to do, exactly, then you will PR and you will end up on the podium. But you've got to be rigid. Or here's the guide, here's the outline, here's the skeleton of what you should do. Make it your own, and it'll get you pretty close, probably within 10 to 30 minutes. You would pick that one because that's who you are, and that's what it makes it more fun for you. And I think there's a lot of athletes out there that struggle with the, they don't want to be told what to. They want to have some ownership, and they feel like coaching is getting into a dictatorship, is where somebody owns you. It's a partnership.
Right.
But to me, it's like, we do this to be fun and to be healthy. And if you think that it's going to be more fun to do it one way, then honestly, the higher likelihood of success is the option B that I gave you, which was, here's the outline, here's the skeleton, do this 75 or 8% way, and the rest of the time just do Mike Turali creative shit and do whatever you want to, and you'll get pretty close. Like that has a much higher chance of succeeding than asking someone who is not rigid to be rigid. Right. Because to me, it's very similar to like the January 1st diet, right? It's like you go from 2 months of treating your body like a carnival to, I think I'm just going to give up sugar, coffee, water. I think I'm going to do air every other day and then not eat for a couple weeks and just see what happens. And that might last all of 4 hours. And then you're going to be trunk deep into, 4 dozen cookies, and it's not sustainable. Like it's too much. So you might last, 3 weeks, probably not even that, on like the uber rigid plan. And then you're going to go completely opposite direction. And so I think that I really do believe that there is a happy medium, right? And yes, you need guidance, and yes, you need, but even in, race, like heavy periods of time, right? Like, for one athlete, I could say, like if I gave you, I want you to go, 5 to 5.5 hours, really easy conversational coffee ride. Some people, that's like right up their alley. Or you could just hop on your trainer for 3.5 hours and obliterate yourself.
B. Exactly.
Right. It's one. And here's the thing is neither one of them are really wrong, because long rides, in my experience, long rides are more mentally draining than long runs. For most people, long runs beat up the body more, but long runs tend to be more like mentally and emotionally cleansing and freeing than long rides. Because there's a lot to go into, because you're stuck inside. Enough said. Like, it's brutal. But if you're outside, there's just so much to pay attention to, right? Traffic and people and other people you're riding with, and possible flat tires and refilled bottle change, all this kind of stuff, all the hoopla that goes with it. But from a training stress standpoint, it's pretty close. But if you're going to love it and you're going to wake up like energized to do it, those the kind of cues you should look for, And so I think that there's again, not for every athlete, because some athletes, they don't operate well like that, but I think most athletes do, because it does kind of allow you like the perfect, plan, which is your own, but under under strict guidance, not strict, but under the guidance of a professional, right? Like, but make it your own. Because I also think a lot of athletes are wired this way, even ones that have coaches. and then I know there's a ton of, self-coached athletes that they take pride in. They're like, I don't want anybody to know I want to feel like I do this on my own. Like they that is just who they are. I want to do this on my own. I don't want someone telling me what to do. And a lot of times, for the most part, they'll never get even somewhat close to their potential. But really what they need is just someone to help guide them and give them the options. And so I think there's a whole world of that out there that we could probably, and honestly, like as coaches, we could do I know I can do a better job of recognizing. And I think, for some athletes it doesn't work, but for a lot of athletes, it's a good thing, right? To have these options of, how do I feel today? And maybe it's not just like a physical, what do I need? Maybe it's just like, yeah, like I don't know that I have threshold in me today, but I could probably hang tight for 15 minutes of zone 3 and be done, instead of looking at the singular option, which is 3 times 5 minutes, right? Or, the hill repeats, and maybe you see the hill repeats and you're like, God, my calf's a little bit tight today. It's probably not a good idea. It's 4:00 in the morning. I can't text my coach. I don't know what to do. So I'm either going to do this or I'm not going to do anything. But options give you options for success. And I think that I know we talk about this a ton on the podcast in various different formats with, in various different subjects, but like there is no perfect. There really isn't. Like there is no perfect, when it comes to plans and when it comes to layouts. It is, you put it in there, and we do the best we can as coaches. You do the best you can as athletes, hopefully. And then we say we end up on race day and we do our best on race day. And then that's kind of where we end up. But like the obsessive nature of the perfection and the precision, I think a lot of coaches grasp at that because they feel like that's the only reason people have coaches, right? Is to be precise and to be perfect and to give them exactly what they need, right? Physically, from a physiological standpoint, every single day. But that's impossible. And any, I think honest coach would tell you that that's impossible. You do your best, but at the same time, when that athlete wakes up, you have no idea what kind of mental space they're going to be in, right? Like I could have had going back to like the choice intervals on the bike run or even swim, or anything, and you're a coach, right? And I'm coaching, Timmy, and Timmy's having a great week. And the next day I've got like a threshold session, ready for him on Thursday. And I check in on him on Wednesday, and he does his ride or his swim or whatever it is. And all positive comments are like, great, like mentally check, emotional check, physical check, in a good spot. Well, then, little Timmy's son has a bad practice, and then he and his wife get in a huge argument at 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, barely sleeps, super stressed, wakes up early the next morning because his day is going to be slam packed. What do? The coach is nowhere to be found. Nowhere. This is the athlete. This is the human. What do you decide? And I do believe that the more options you give the athlete, the actual larger margin you have to be ultimately successful next, I'll just keep using Wisconsin, like September. Because if there is no other option, he might be so pissed off at no sleep and maybe still upset at his wife or stressed that he's like, I'm going to fucking hammer this day. I know it's the best thing for me, but I'm going to do it. Because I don't even know what else to do, and I don't want to let down my coach, or I don't want to skip a day because then it's going to make me even more mad. But instead, he opens up his calendar and he's like, hey, I could do this threshold, but I'm like, God, or I can make it 15 minutes, zone 3. Or it also says, like, just give me a solid aerobic ride today. God, I love choices, right? There's no pre-built graph where it's going to show me that I'm, red or yellow. And, there's not even like a predetermined time. So it's not even going to populate a color. And again, like, I think there's a ton of opportunity there for, for us as coaches to take some of like to find like the best combination we can, obviously for each individual, you know, throughout the year, but to take take both parts of the year, right? That they don't have to be so polar opposite, right? It doesn't have to be so anal and rigid and detailed on this huge chunk of the year. And then the other part of the year, it doesn't have to be so, you know, flexible on the fuck around. I think there's points in each where you have to be one another and then just kind of find a happy medium.
Right.
I'm done.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I always have kind of out there analogies, but as you're talking, you know, I was thinking about, you know, what you said about me. You know, you gave me two options, right? You know, the training plan, stick with it, and we can get you to PR, or maybe the podium, whatever. Or I can have flexibility and get what I get, but have a solid race, you know, do what I do. And, but that, you know, that comes down to me really accepting the outcome, no matter what it is in that second case. Right. So like, I think that that's one of the things I've learned over time is that, you know, it's like, you know, I say air quotes, meditation, you know, doing meditation. And, and I've always had this thing about, and I'm sure a lot of people do, is sort of like, I'm fascinated by this, you know, enlightenment, being a monk thing. Right. And, you know, you could probably do it, you know, it might take 4 hours of meditation a day or something like that. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. You know, I'm going to get to the monk status, the enlightened monk on the top of the mountain under a tree. I'm going to get there, but I got to meditate 4 hours a day, man. Some days that doesn't seem like something I want to do. Right. Or you could stick to that training plan verbatim, you know, kind of hope you don't get injured and all these other things, depending on your age and your flexibility and your sleep and your work and stress, and maybe get to the podium. You know, it's sort of like a one-track mind sort of thing, you know, but, and both are definitely attainable probably, but it's like, I want to be a monk, but like only on certain days, you know, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, or I want to have that mentality kind of woven through my life. I want to be a pretty good triathlete and take my chances. You know, I've worked with some athletes where we toyed around with like 2 weeks on, 1 week off instead of the traditional 3 or whatever, or mix and molding. And you do that too. To me, that's, you know, like the difference sometimes between, you know, a training plan, which we have always said, if you take a training plan, most training plans out there, they'll probably get you to where you want to go or close to it. If you follow it and you don't have any support or anybody talking to you along the way, if you're just that rigid or robotic about it and just go through it and really nail it. But like sometimes that, you know, different things work, you know, like like I work with a lot of older athletes and we have to kind of play around with that sometimes. Like, you know, sometimes the recovery needs a little more attention. And so I think that, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, I even look at workouts as prompts sometimes, because I'm like, all right, like you said, you know, you look at a workout and you go, damn, I do not want to do that today. But how many times have I gotten on the bike or something or on the run and just kind of did my warm up? Like, can we just start respecting warm up a little bit more as we get older? I just think it opens the door, you know, because sometimes, again, like we've talked about this too, is like you get to that first interval, maybe you don't feel like doing it, maybe kind of half-ass it a little bit. And then maybe by the second one, you're like, damn, I am in this groove right now, because we never tell, you know, fatigue and accumulated fatigue is it's like such a mystery, you know. Sometimes you just do better when you're fatigued, you know, because it's sort of like I'm in it, I'm used to it. It feels right. You know, I think about that a lot with racing too. It's like, you know, you've talked about short tapers and sometimes people that are just, you know, the weekend before they kind of, or, you know, 10 days before they kind of did something real hard that is real race simulated in a sense, or, you know what I mean? It can kind of like just keep you into a pattern that allows you to perform better because you're just used to it, you know? You know, it's like Emily was doing a lot of like lifting and stuff like that this year. And she was sore often. She goes, yeah, I was really sore during the race, but I was so used to it that I just kept going. these weird little
right.
things. But it really is something, man, because you can, like, is it the goal? Is, like, I had to really think about this, because I always used to, when I started, I was podium, and I still think about it. I'm out training in June. I'm like, all right, this might, if I keep doing, but it's like that. It's not the thing, it's like, I want to feel better all the time. I want to be engaged in my day and not just demolishing myself so I can't enjoy the day to day, or, what I'm doing outside of training. Yeah, you can just work 8 hours or go to school 8 hours, come home and just keep grinding, go to sleep and keep doing it again. But I don't know how long it's just like, maybe some people like that. I don't know. But I'm just really intrigued by the mix of how this sport can enhance your life and not always, have you looking out at something in the future.
Well, and I think it's only been like, I think that like the autonomy has only increased in the last 3 to 4 years because of how accessible all the information and disinformation is. Right? You go from, like you go from, I mean, when I first got in the sport, it was basically, Triathlete magazine or Lava magazine. And that was like where you got like all your information from. And now, I mean, like everything is consumable from, every pro triathlete has a vlog that puts out videos all the time. There's forums, there's Reddit groups, there's Facebook groups, there's Instagram, there's triathlete influencers, there's podcasters, like there's coaching, it's so much. And so I think it's, I mean, and I can admit this on my own end, like as an athlete, is it's become increasingly harder for me to coach myself because I have so much information in my brain about all things triathlon and multi-sport sports science that if I put something down on my own, I'm like, but there's also like 45 other ways to do this, Robbie. Is this the correct way? But when I do it for my athletes, I don't question it at all. I'm like, I got this. Like, I got full confidence but with me, it's like, I don't. And so I think with athletes too, is they are so influenced, whether they are, whether they feel like they're readily participating in it or not. Because I mean, I'm sure you got this too, but I've got, plenty of athletes that like every other day, they're like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't like it. I think it's stupid. Or I'm like, yeah, we kind of do that already. We just call it something different, or I think that's irrational and just, ridiculous.
Or what do you think about this?
Or what do you think about this? And I'm like, well, do you really know what I think? And they're like, well, kind of like, and I'm like, yeah, well, you asked me, so I'm gonna tell you. But yeah, I mean, it's just like there's, because there's a path to perfection in 438,000 different ways, according to social media, podcasts, forums, Facebook, you name it. There's that's the way to go pro, or that's the way to lose weight, or that's the way to lead a happier life. Like, it looks different for everybody. And I think the more information that we have, and the more, I think that it just makes people, again, like almost less convicted into one thing than it does the thing, which is to just get better continuously. Because the more you read, the more you consume, the more you listen, I mean, same thing, like we could all look to quote unquote peer-reviewed scientific research to prove whatever the hell we wanted to prove, or disprove whatever the hell we wanted to disprove, because it's on every end of the spectrum all the time. So which one is right? The one that you're most convicted about is the one that is right. Yeah, I firmly believe that. I feel like the best food or diet for you is the one you're most convicted is, because that's the one you're most likely going to stick with. because it resonates with you. In your gut, it just seems and feels right. Therefore, you're going to continue to do it. If it's something that you don't necessarily agree with, or you're looking for reasons for it not to work, which is also something that athletes do. Like they're like, oh, but I've always done this and that, and this is the way to do this, and I'm like, well, that's kind of what got you there. So obviously that's not what works. Just stick with this, and we'll see what happens. And but I think a lot of times if an athlete is finding themselves looking for something not to work, then you've got a problem. And I think when athletes lose confidence, lose focus, feel too rigid, feel like they don't have enough ownership, they look for things to go wrong so they can do things a different way. And a lot of times it's not questioning the coach about their direction. It's them also kind of saying, hey, like, I love what we're doing, but I kind of want to do it a different way. Like, I love this dish at this restaurant, but it's getting to taste the same. Can we go somewhere else and have the same thing? Fine, let's do that, right? But it's not about I just now hate steak and potatoes. It's I'm tired of going to, this restaurant for steak and potato. Let's go somewhere different and maybe get a different steak and potato. I just need a little bit of change. And I think that that's something that every athlete needs, and I think craves, again, at certain times of the year, but it's listening to those craves, and athletes should listen to themselves, and again, like we live in this world of over precision and things like that. But even still, like, you can't predict your best day, and you can't predict what you're going to want, what you're going to need next year or next week, or maybe even tomorrow. Right. So I do believe that, like, the more options that you have, the better, opportunity you have to be successful long term and to be bought in. Because to me, that's the biggest thing to me, athlete buy-in is so important, but it's not just buy-in to the coach. It's buy-in, and it's not just buy-in to the partnership. It's buy-in for the athlete into themselves, that you also want this to be successful. You also want to succeed. You also want to own the program, and you also want to be held accountable for owning and captaining your own decisions within the program under the guidance with your coach. Because that same guy, Timmy, who woke up the next morning, if there's a threshold session on tap, he should feel the confidence and the autonomy and the ownership. So if there is no option, to scrap it and either go for a walk, go for a 30-minute easy run, go for a 2K loosened swim, or an active recovery ride, or just warm up and see what happens. Because the coach doesn't ride shotgun on race day. Just doesn't. Like, I mean, we saw it in the Ironman World Championships. Like, you could freaking be owning it, and all of a sudden it's over. Like, athletes have to make the decision. You can write the best plan ever, but if you don't make the decision to execute it correctly, then guess what? It's not going to work out for you, probably. So you have to, and I think that's too, like, I think some athletes buy into coaching to relieve them of all responsibility, to relieve them of all accountability and all motivation. The coach needs to motivate me. The coach needs to lay out the plan, and then I just need to do it. And that basically, if things don't go right, I can just blame the coach. And there's plenty of athletes out there like that. I've worked with some of them before. It's not about them. It's about the coach. But a real coach-athlete partnership is complete 100% buy-in of the goal that you set out to achieve. It's not totally on the coach, and it's not totally on the athlete. You own it together. And that is, to me, the only way a coach-athlete relationship can be ultimately fruitful and successful and sustainable, is if both athletes are completely bought in, want the same thing, like desperately want the same thing. You can't ask your coach to desperately want it if you just kind of want to flirt with it. That's not going to that's not going to work, right? And there's plenty of, and you can't, if you can't desperately want something, a coach kind of flirt with it. You got to be both all in. And I think that's just an important piece of the puzzle, right? When even you look at options and accountability, on both ends of, the partnership, these options are great, and this layering in of what we want to do, when we want to do it, is also great. But, ultimately you got to have the same goal, one team, one dream, as they say. So you have to get there, but it's also, like we talked about before we went live. It's like, ultimately it's your dream. It's your dream. I can craft it for you. Like the option A, I can craft the perfect plan that I think might get you there, even if it's guaranteed. But what's going to be the most enjoyable dream? What's going to be the most, I think it comes down to this, and I'll shut up. But, the week of race day, if you look at option A and option B, what's going to lead you into race day with the most confidence and the most conviction, right? The working off the rigid plan that maybe took a little bit of joy out of it, but you feel really fit, but you're just kind of ready for it to be over with. You want to kind of do what you want. Or, working, the same plan with the same coach with a little bit of flexibility and feeling just really excited and having really enjoyed the process and enjoyed the training and loved the training and excited to race. You're probably, you're probably looking at a head-to-head competition on race day, because the person with the better mental and emotional outlook and the bigger love for the sport and the bigger love for the journey and appreciation and buy-in and how much they enjoyed the process and just excited to get on the line to see what would happen because they feel like they are a part of it, right? Is way more fun. Like Hayden, if I tell him that he should probably go downstairs to shoot pucks, he will go shoot pucks for maybe 5 minutes and be done. When he goes and wants to shoot pucks, I have to come tell him to come upstairs. Yeah. Because he just loves it and he doesn't want to stop, and he'll be down there doing whatever he wants to. So I just think it's an important thing for us all to make, both athletes, coaches. Again, I think there's so many lessons to be learned on how we operate this time of year that we could continue to operate with throughout the year, right? To maintain a more, like a better homeostasis between coach, athlete, training, performance, goals, all these things, and just keeping them all aligned and in balance.
Yeah, I think quickly, you said it's your dream, whoever it is. And that's true. And I just think, like, for me, I have to reflect on that concept sometimes, because what my dream seems to be, I don't know if it really is sometimes. I have to have hard conversations with myself every season about, I just want to get on the podium or whatever. And I've seen, so many people that we know get to the podium, and I think that's great and everything. I just wonder sometimes if that's really the thing. It happens. It's a great grand celebration on a morning after the race or whatever, and then it's gone. And then you're like, man, it's just I think it's an admirable goal, but it's just, to me, it's like, I can't really put that as what I want my life to be. You know what I mean? It just becomes disturbing in my psyche, because I know deep down that that's not what it is. And I'm maybe I'm just out there trying to prove shit to other people or whatever. And then nobody cares. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to go, like you're saying, man, it's like, you got to want to shoot the puck. I mean, that's where the win is to me. Even if it's something you don't want to do, it's kind of like you just want to do it because it's part of who you are. And that can be getting on the bike. And, I go through streaks like that. And I know when I'm in whatever homeostasis or whatever you want to call it, it's like, this feels right. I'm just doing it. I get up, and like I've always said, I mean, to me, the goal is always to look forward to tomorrow, when you go to bed, no matter what that might be.
There's a lot to be said for being excited about training. I mean, I think everybody, and we can close it out there, but like, I think I love that is, is the best screws I've ever been in training. Before I went to bed at night, I was like excited about the training the next morning.
Yeah.
Either because it was a long run, or it was an interval workout and I want to see how I fared, or it was a bike workout where I got to challenge myself. it wasn't like, I wonder if I'm going to get up and like have to make myself run in the morning. You know, it's just, and again, like you're always going to go through periods of both, right? Like in a year, it's just like people with their work, you know, one week they love it, one week they hate it. You know, sometimes you feel like you're, you know, freaking, you know, as coaches, it's the same way. Like some day you think you're the best coach on the planet, and the other day you're like, God, I feel like I suck today. So we all have these like ebbs and motivation and flows. I mean, but if you're stuck in that for, you know, for weeks and weeks and weeks, there's a problem. You know, but there you got to find ways to get through things short term. But I do think it's how you resolve that initial feeling that can either elongate that feeling or kind of nip it in the bud out of the gate. Right. And that's why I love what you said about the warm up. I mean, or just jumping in the open water. To me, it's always like a walk with a dog. If I'm waking up feeling run down, I'm like, I don't got to take. I'm like, I'm just going to take Waffles for a walk. Put in some music and go. Ultimately, when I'm done, I'm like, I feel better. I'm about moving. Let me plan out the rest of my day. And I think like those igniters, like you said, I love that. I think everybody's got those like igniters that we can fall back on, that we just, you know, instead of, you know, we've all got our igniters and we all got our fire extinguishers, right? You know, I think a lot of times we grab for the fire extinguisher first because we think nothing is the answer. When a lot of times it's just like, let's just ignite it and strike the match. And if it burns for a couple seconds, it burns for a couple seconds. Or we might like the way it's burning and we might like the way it feels. And so we might end up, you know, going down in a flame of glory. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's an important thing to listen to. And I think, again, like we said, important for us all to listen to 12 months out of the year, not just, you know, during the end of the season and the start of the season.
I agree.
That's it. We've gone well into overtime this week.
Yeah, we have. What day is? Oh, it's Thursday.
It is Thursday, man. We got way into the well. I think you got Ironman California coming up this weekend. So best luck to everybody racing that. Then I think at North Carolina, 70.3. Yeah, the season is never ending. Yeah, great weekend, great week. Hope you're all soaking in the fall weather. As always, we love you guys and we appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he is available, Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
You too, man. See you, dude.
See you.